Here at the Collaborative Library, our main aim is to share bite-sized, reliable, lay summaries of scientific research as widely as possible, mostly to counteract problems with the spreading of false information or disinformation online. Why is disinformation such a problem then? Well, according to Professor Tom Buchanan from the University of Westminster in the UK, although it's part of our everyday life these days, the creation or manipulation of information has potential to deceive or mislead people, tending to make them think in extreme ways. This is done to cause harm, sometimes for political, personal or financial gain, where the former is viewed as a threat to democracy as it badly affects trust and undermines civil society. For example, Tom and others talk about how groups of people have done things like attacking telecommunications masts because they believe 5G towers were causing coronavirus after seeing or hearing a series of false stories about this online. So how does false information spread then? Well, usually it's by ordinary people deliberately sharing or liking posts on social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, which can spread across the web rapidly and go viral. To give you some idea, back in 2015 and 2017, the internet research agency Disinformation Group found that over 30 million users shared dummy Facebook and Instagram disinformation posts created by the internet research agency with their families and friends. So why do we do this? One idea is that most of us are on autopilot when using social media and just like and reshare things in quite an absent-minded sort of way. It's a bit more spontaneous rather than a planned thing. But researchers think there are three main things that may contribute to this. The first one is consistency. This is the sharing or liking of posts containing content that is consistent with our past behaviour or prior views and attitudes. Tom gives the example that people who vote Republican are more likely to post or like right-wing views. The second thing is consensus. This is basically the idea that people believe others share the same view about the information shared and so, well, they repost it. It follows that something that has been shared widely by many people is viewed as having greater credibility, which by the way is a tried and tested mass marketing tactic called social proofing, often seen in the form of reviews or sales rankings on websites like Amazon. Pretty clever, eh? Bots, which are computer software programs that do repeated tasks, also spread disinformation online by repeatedly retweeting posts to get a high retweet count, leading others to believe this must mean there's a shared agreement across many people, which unfortunately leads to further sharing. However, consensus could also be used to boost helpful and accurate messages to counter disinformation too. The third one is authority, and this is about posts or messages containing disinformation seemingly coming from a credible person or a trustworthy source, where just like consistency and consensus has been shown in other online experiments. The idea is that if you put all three things together, you'll get disinformation posts that will dramatically increase reach and possibly go viral. So who are the spreaders? It's not everybody. Only around 10% of people, according to other studies, which although it's a minority is still a relatively large number of people. Being able to tell these people apart from others offers some hope for the future that they can be intercepted with counter messages early on in their potentially harmful posting campaign. Evidence shows that it's mostly older people, partly due to their poor ability to interact with textual, sound, image, video and social medias, or find, manipulate and use such information, referred to as a lack of digital literacy. Sometimes it's done by people unwittingly, or when they've been tricked. However, at the time of writing, Tom highlights that there is currently limited evidence to show that education programs improve people's digital literacy. Which brings us to another important point. That it's possible some people know what they're seeing is disinformation, yet they decide to spread it anyway, which may render digital literacy education programs pretty useless. Personality-wise, again, just like advertising campaigns, it seems to be people with greater agreeableness who post or repost disinformation, while greater conscientiousness to posting political messages could also reflect people who are more cautious and pay more attention to detail. Across the 4 different online experiments, including 2,634 people, Tom and his colleagues tested out if their likelihood of reposting on social media was related to levels of consistency, consensus, authority, but also their pre-existing views and beliefs and level of digital literacy. All studies were done in almost exactly the same way, based on mock-ups of Facebook, Twitter and Instagram platforms, where the Facebook experiment was repeated in the US to explore any cultural differences compared with people's posting behaviours in the UK. Participants initially gave their basic demographic information, but also completed questionnaires to assess their personality, political orientation and digital literacy. They were then asked to rate 3 genuine disinformation posts and their likelihood for sharing them after viewing 3 stories or screenshots taken from the websites infowars.com or similar, where posts are renowned for promoting right-wing ideas and fake news. To put a name to a face here, Infowars were successfully sued recently by the families of victims for making false claims that the Sandy Hook shooting in the US was a hoax. The 3 posts and stories were shown to each participant in different random combinations after being told that a friend of yours recently shared this on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram, commenting that they thought it was important, asking all their friends to share it. The posts were then altered to change the level of consistency, consensus and authority. See the original article for more information about this. Participants were then asked to rate how accurate or truthful they felt the posts were, and how likely it was that the person had seen the post before, but also if they have ever shared a political news story online that they later discovered was made up, or one where they knew at the time it was false. Overall, Tom's team showed that consensus, authoritativeness, and for the most part media literacy were unrelated to false information spreading via reposting, sharing, liking, and retweeting posts or stories on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Having more right-wing political views was related to greater likelihood of sharing and liking false information on Facebook and Twitter, but not Instagram, which may also mean that pre-existing beliefs are important, where more intentional sharing of false political information was by men. Curiously though, conservatism was mostly unrelated to past sharing of disinformation, believing a story to be true and the likelihood of seeing them before online or familiarity were the strongest predictors of the likelihood of someone sharing false information on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Having a lower level of education was mixed, while being a man seemed to be an important contributor to sharing disinformation, which, for the most part, was accidental sharing of disinformation in the past. Interestingly though, greater digital literacy was related to a deliberate attempt to share disinformation and connected to higher levels of conservatism. The age of participants and their personality traits, including agreeableness, conscientiousness, neuroticism, so that's having a tendency to express more negativity, and extroversion, being more sociable, talkative, assertive and excitable, showed mixed findings across the 4 studies in terms of understanding the likelihood of sharing or liking posts or retweets or past sharing of disinformation. There were also mixed results for reports for past sharing behaviour overall across the 4 studies. Challenges with the study were that all questionnaires were self-reports, which may mean that people give socially desirable responses. Plus, the results across the studies were inconsistent and problems with the data itself may have contributed to mixed findings. See the quality assessment checklist below for more information about this. Why is it important then? Well, a bit like putting out a fire before it tears through a building and causes significant damage, Tom's study has taken an important step in helping us to begin to disentangle some of the things that may be important drivers in false information sharing online. However, more work needs to be done to clarify what these drivers are, which may help us to target disinformation in the future with things like counter-messaging campaigns to reduce or contain their negative impact, to extinguish or manage the fire before it grows and spreads and causes unnecessary harm.